Yo, hello future RMTs. Again, welcome back to our virtual classroom. And in this lecture, what we're going to discuss is all about chemical reactions and stoichiometry. Okay, this is actually, guys, the continuation of what we have discussed in chemical bonds. Okay, in chemical bonds, we discussed the two major type of chemical bonds, the ionic and covalent bonds. In this lecture, no, we are going to apply our knowledge on chemical bonds, okay, in chemical reactions. Since we are going to predict the product of our chemical reactions, then chemical bonds is important for you to figure out, no, what will be the product of each chemical reactions. Well, of course, we'll also have the stoichiometry, but for stoichiometry, I will give the detailed discussion on our next video or on the part 2 of this video. Okay, so what will be our learning objectives or learning outcomes? Our learning outcomes is to predict the products of chemical reactions. Well, of course, you should know also how to balance the reaction and solve stoichiometric problems. So the overview, we have chemical reactions. Along with the chemical reactions, we are going to balance chemical reactions or chemical equations. And of course, we will have the stoichiometric problems or the solving of stoichiometric problems that will be given in the part 2 of this video. Okay, so generally we have six types of chemical reactions. We have the synthesis reaction. Take note, guys, that synthesis reaction is also known as the combination reaction. We also have the decomposition reaction. We have the single replacement reaction. We have the double replacement reaction, the combustion reaction, and we also have the redox oxidation reduction, or most commonly known as the redox reaction. Okay, first, let's discuss what is synthesis reaction, also known as a combination reaction. Okay, take note, guys, when we said synthesis reaction or composition combination reaction, it is a type of reaction wherein two, no, I will write, this is a type of reaction wherein okay, two or more substance, okay, form a new compound or a new single substance. Okay, guys, please take note that when we said combination or synthesis reaction, there is a reaction of two or more substances to form a new single substance. And our general formula for single synthesis reaction, I'm sorry, is we have A plus B will give you AB. Okay? Two or more substances represented by A and B, no, to form a new single substance which is represented by AB. Okay? So let's have an example. We have now sodium, okay, plus chlorine. Okay? Sodium plus chlorine, no? We will have here your sodium chloride as our product, no? So A, this is our A, this is our B, AB, sodium plus chlorine, we have sodium chloride. Okay, that is what we call the synthesis reaction or combination reaction. Now the question is I'm sorry, our chlorine is a diatomic atom. Yan. Now the question is this balanced? Well, the answer is no. No, this equation is not balanced because if we are going to take a look with the number of atoms present on our reactant is not the same number of each element not the same number of the atoms present for the for each element in our product. So how are we going to balance chemical reactions? The traditional way in balancing chemical reactions is indicating the number or indicating or listing the elements present in the reactant and the elements present in the product. Well, generally, no, they will have the same elements present in the reactant and in the product. So in this case, no, we have here sodium and we have chlorine. The question is, let's make a table. Okay, the question is, how many sodium do we have in the reactant? Take note, guys, that the elements or compounds that can be found on the left side, no, on the left side of the equation, okay, left side of equation is what we call reactants. And when we said reactants, this can be a element or this can be a compound that is being mixed together in order to produce another compound or what we call product. Okay, and the one that is on the left, on the right side, no, right side of the equation is what we call the product. So the first column refers to the reactant and the second column refers to the product. How many sodium do we have in the reactant? We have 1. How many chlorine do we have? We have 2. No? How many sodium do we have in product? We have 1. How many chlorine or chloride do we have? We have 1. Now, in this case, if we are going to check it, we can say that, hey, sodium is balanced, having one here and another one in the product. However, our chlorine is not balanced. So we have two atoms of chlorine, no? So how are we going to balance this? Now, we will, no, add coefficient, okay, to our equation. Now, if we add here 2 or if we put here 2, then our sodium will become 2. Okay? Our chlorine will become 2. Now, in this case, chlorine is now balanced. Okay? This is now balanced. But the problem is our sodium. Our sodium is originally balanced, but when after adding or after putting here 2 as our coefficient, then our sodium becomes unbalanced. Okay, in order to balance this, no, we can add here 2. 2 times 1, this will become 2. Okay, therefore, the addition of sodium and chlorine, no, will give you sodium chloride. And this reaction or the balance equation of this reaction is 2 moles of sodium plus 1 mole of chloride will give you 2 moles of sodium chloride. And that will be our balance equation. Now, I want you to take note of this. Okay? Okay, I will just erase this. And I want you to remember this one, guys. I will write, remember me. Number one, in balancing equations, okay, in balancing equations, uh, coefficient can be changed, but not the subscripts. Okay, why? Because these subscripts indicates the number of atoms present for each element. No, coefficient is the one that we are writing, the number that we write before the chemical formula. Let's say, for example, the 2Na plus Cl2 will give you 2NaCl or sodium chloride. This 2 is our coefficients, not the number written before the chemical equation. And this one is our subscript. And you cannot change the subscript in the chemical equation because it will not be the same chemical compound if you will change the subscript. You can change the coefficient but never the subscript. Take note of that. And then number two, no, you should remember the correct, number two, correct chemical formula. Okay? Never forget to write the correct chemical formula. Okay? Why? If you still remember my question in our forum, what is the most important, one of the most important factors to consider in balancing equation is the chemical formula. Okay? So please take note of that. And lastly, number three, take note of the law of conservation of mass. Okay, so going back to our another example. Number two, we have magnesium plus oxygen. Definitely, it will give us magnesium oxide. Again, same question goes. Is our equation balanced? Okay, the answer is no. Why? Because if we are going again to make a table to indicate the number of atoms present for our reactant, and our product, we can say that magnesium is balanced, oxygen is not balanced. So basically, the same thing, no? Take note of this. Ang una mong gagalawin is yung hindi balance. I repeat, in English, the first thing that you are going to change is the element or the compound or the side which is not balanced. In this case, no? Oh, why is our oxygen 0? It should be 1. No, it should be 1. Yan. So in this case, ano yung hindi natin balance? Magnesium is balanced. Check. Oxygen is not balanced. Okay? So, sino yung una mong gagalawin? The one on the reactant or the one on the product? Okay? Again, tandaan mo, mas malaki to. Ito 2 na. No? Ito 1 pa lang. Pag ito yung ginalaw mo, mas tataas siya pag naglagay ka ng coefficient dito. But if you will add coefficient here to make oxygen balance in the equation, then mababalance mo yung iyong oxygen. In this case, no, ano yung number of atoms ng ating oxygen? 2. So if we will add here or put here 2, then our magnesium will becomes 2 and our oxygen will becomes 2. Now, the other way around ang nangyari. Bakit po? Yung ating oxygen ang nabalance, pero ang ating magnesium ang hindi. So, ibig sabihin, oxygen is already balanced, while our magnesium is not balance because we add here 2 as coefficient, meaning to say we have 2 moles of magnesium oxide produced in the reaction between magnesium and oxygen. So, anong ginawa natin? Anong gagawin natin? Like what we did in this. We add here or we put here 2 as coefficient. Sir, bakit 2? Kasi 2 yung product mo. No, para mabalance, mag-add ka ng 2. So, 2 times 1, this will becomes 2. Is this our balance equation? Yes. So, therefore, our balance equation is 2 magnesium plus oxygen will give you 2 moles of magnesium oxide. Okay? 2 moles of magnesium oxide. Now, another example. Another example is we have aluminum plus oxygen. So, aluminum plus oxygen will give us aluminum hydroxide. Aluminum oxide rather. Okay, aluminum oxide. Sir, will you please review us kung bakit po naging A2O3 po yan? So again, ang ating aluminum is aluminum 3 plus. It means it can give 3 electrons. Our oxygen 2 negative. It means, no, it requires 2 electrons, additional 2 electrons. When we have our crisscross, then it will be A2O3. Okay? So that is the chemical formula for aluminum oxide. Okay, sana na-recall, no? Sana natandaan na that is our formula for aluminum oxide. Now, going back to our topic, going back to the balancing equation, so we have here aluminum and we have oxygen. Again, we're going to make a table, no, to indicate the number of each elements present in the reactant and in the product. Now, how many aluminum do we have in the reactant? 1. Okay, 1. How many oxygen do we have in the reactant? 2. Okay, how many aluminum do we have in the product? 2. How many oxygen do we have in the reactant? 3. O yan, no? In this case, both elements are not balanced. So how are we going to do on this? Take note na ang una mong gagalawin is yung pinakamadali mo siyang magagalaw. No? Ang una mong gagawin is yung pinakamadali mo siyang magagalaw. Now, let's see. No? So, ano po yung una nating magagalaw na una? Let's try aluminum. So, 2 ang product, 1 ang reactant. Now, if we will add here 2, okay, if we will add here 2, then this will become 2. Okay? Can you guys follow? I hope you can follow. No? How about our oxygen? Okay. On our reactant, ano siya? 2. On our product, 3. So what number should be written as a coefficient in order to have a balanced equation for oxygen in the reactant and in the product? Okay? If we will add here 2, okay? If we will add here 2, 2 times 2 will be 4. Hindi po siya pwede because this is 3. So meaning to say, we have to remove or we have to disregard 2. So what will be the number that will be written on the number or the number that will be written or the coefficient for oxygen? So let's make it 3. Okay, because 3 times 2 this will becomes 6. Now how about for this one? Let's put here 2. If we will put here 2, 2 times 3 will becomes 6. But take note, No, we are not yet balanced. Why, sir? Because you adhere to. Before, wala siyang 2. That's why it's 2, no, for aluminum. But you adhere to for oxygen to be balanced. So how are we going to deal on it? So if that is 2 times 2, this will becomes 4. Meaning to say, you have to change again this coefficient to 4. Bakit 4? Because this is 4. So simply, that will be 4. So our balance equation will be 4 moles of aluminum plus 3 moles of oxygen to give you 2 moles of aluminum oxide. Now, if you remember, what is the first element na ginalaw natin? Yung first element na ginalaw natin is our aluminum. Tapos pinalitan ulit natin siya. Now, take note. Take note of this. Remember, the first element that you are going to change or to add coefficient is the element that is the most easiest element to change. Anong ibig sabihin? Yung hindi ka na magbabago-bago pa ulit. So instead of having 2 in aluminum or adding 2 in aluminum, then we can solve this balance equation as simple as this way. So we have aluminum plus oxygen, no, will give you aluminum oxide. So ano yung sinasabi ni sir? So magdagdag ka dito ng 2. Aluminum 4, oxygen 6. Dagdag ka dito ng 3, okay? Oxygen 6. Okay? Yung iyong aluminum 4 dito, ilagay mo dito 4, mas madali. Instead of ginawa mo itong 2, pinalitan mo ng 4, no, mas tumagal ka. Okay? Next example is we have potassium and chlorine. Okay? Example is potassium and chlorine. So potassium plus chlorine will give you potassium chloride. Do we have balance equation? No, we don't have. So potassium 1, chlorine 2. Potassium 1, chlorine 1. Ang potassium natin balance. Ang chlorine natin hindi. Okay? So, ano una natin gagawin? I-balance natin ang chlorine. Mag-a-add ba tayo dito ng coefficient? No. Kasi mas mataas na yung reactant mo kaysa sa product. So, dito ka magdagdag. What will be the coefficient that we are going to write? 2. Sir, bakit 2? Kasi 2 to. Dapat na-balance mo siya. This will becomes 2. This will becomes 2. So, ngayon, yung iyong potassium sa reactant mo, hindi balance. Kasi meron ka daw dalawang potassium sa iyong product. And you simply add here or put here 2 to make the equation balance. 2 potassium, check. 2 chlorine, check. Okay, on our product, dalawa ba ang ating potassium? Check. Dalawa ba ang ating chlorine? Yes. Check. So this is the balance equation. Now take note guys, again, please remember, wag mong kalilimutan. Okay? Makikitandaan naman, okay, that a synthesis reaction is A plus B will give you AB. Okay? Synthesis reaction is A plus B will give you AB. Okay? Next. What will be our next? Our next type of reaction is decomposition reaction. Okay? What does it mean? Kapag po sinabi nating decomposition reaction, it means that, okay, I will write again. Okay? Kapag po sinabi nating decomposition reaction, That is a reaction, a reaction, in which a compound breaks down, okay, into two or more compounds. And also take note that this type of reaction mostly requires a an input of energy, whether as heat, light, or electricity. Okay, take note, when we said decomposition reaction, it is a reaction in which a compound breaks down into two or more compounds, and it requires an input of energy in the form of either heat, light, or electricity. Okay, so let's have an example. We have mercuric oxide, okay, HgO. So we have HgO decomposed in the presence of heat. Okay? By the way, the general formula for decomposition is AB, the presence of heat, light, or electricity, will become A plus B. We broke, we decompose, we separate. Okay? So this will become Hg plus oxygen. Again, the next question is, do we have a balance equation? Then we have to check. Hg, 1. Oxygen, no? 1. Mercury, 1. Oxygen, 2. Okay? If we are going to change, or if you are going to add coefficient, saan po tayo mas mapapadali? Okay? We have here 2. O bakit 2, sir, ang dinagdag mo? Kasi ibabalance natin ang oxygen. Naging 2 ang oxygen. Naging 2 ang mercury. So dito, gagalawin natin to. Mag-add tayo ng 2 para we have a balance equation. Okay? Another example is calcium carbonate. No? Calcium carbonate, decomposition of calcium carbonate in the presence of heat will give us calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Do we have a balance equation? Let's check if we have a balance equation. How many calcium do we have in reactant? 1. How many uh, carbon do we have? 1. How many oxygen do we have? 3. Okay. For for the product, how many calcium do we have? 1. How many oxygen do we have? No. We have here 1. We have here 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. Very good, children. You are now learning. Okay. How many carbon do we have? 1. Do we have a balance equation? Yes. Okay. This is already our balance equation. Okay. Next, another example is we have the decomposition of sodium hydroxide. No? The decomposition of sodium hydroxide will give you, no, uh, sodium oxide plus water. Okay, sodium oxide plus water. The question is, do we have a balance equation? Let's check it. Okay, so we have sodium, 1, oxygen, 1. Remember guys, this is a polyatomic ion, right? Yes, this is a polyatomic ion. However, even though that is a polyatomic ion, in balancing equation, you have to take note the number of element present, no, for each element, not for the polyatomic ion itself, but for the each element that is composed in the reactant or that can be seen in the reactant and in the product. So how many hydrogen in the reactant? 1. How many sodium do we have in our product? 2. How many oxygen do we have in our product? 2. Bakit naging 2? 1 here, 1 here. How many hydrogen do we have? 2. Okay? So, how are we going to balance this? Gagalawin mo pa ba itong ay yung mga reactant, ang iyong mga product? Hindi na. Kasi ang iyong kailangang i-balance is ito na sa reactant mo. Alangan naman lagyan mo to ng 1, lagyan mo to ng 1. That's useless. No? You add here 2. 2, 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. Therefore, we have the balance equation. Okay? Another example is this one. So it will becomes water and carbon dioxide. Question, do we have a balance equation? Let's check. Hydrogen, 2. Carbon, 1. Oxygen, 3. On the product, hydrogen, 2. Carbon, 1. Oxygen, 1 plus 2 is 3. Hydrogen 2, 2, balance. Carbon 1, 1, balance. Oxygen 3, 3, balance. So we have the balance equation. Okay, so that is how a decomposition reaction is. Again, take note, in decomposition reaction, this is a type of reaction wherein compounds are being broke down or breaks down into two or more compounds. It requires reaction or input of energy in a form of heat, light, or electricity. Okay? Next. Next type of reaction is single replacement reaction. So what is single replacement reaction? Single replacement reaction is a type of reaction. Okay, I will write again. This is a type of reaction, no? A reaction in which, okay, in which element replace, okay, replace a similar element in a compound. Thus, we have uh, A plus BC is equals to AC plus B. Okay, so here A replace B. Okay, usually if this is a positively charged, then this should be a positively charged. If this is a metal, then this should be a metal in order to replace a similar element. Okay, now let's say for example, if we have here a non-metal, so that is basically X plus YZ is equals to XZ plus Y, wherein X and Y are both negatively charged, or what we called a non-metal. So we have here X plus YZ will give you Y XY XZ plus Y. Okay, so let's have an example. Our example is magnesium plus uh, copper nitrite. Okay, so again, our formula is A plus BC will give you AC plus B. If this is our A, this is our B, and this is our C. So that will be A and C stand alone CB. So we have, okay, the product will be magnesium nitrite plus copper. O bakit ito nagkameron ng 2? Magnesium is Mg2 plus. Okay? I'll just erase this. I hope you are learning and you can follow. Okay? So let's see if our equation is balanced. How many magnesium do we have? 1. How many copper do we have? 1. How many nitrogen do we have? If your answer is 1, you are wrong. If your answer is 1, you may now sleep. But if your answer is 2, you are correct. Why? Because this polyatomic ion is enclosed in parentheses. Ibig sabihin, there are 2 nitrate that is bonded in our copper. Okay? How many oxygen do we have? If your answer is 3, again, you may go to sleep. But if your answer is 6, you are right. You will pass. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay? How many magnesium do we have in our product? 1. Copper. 1. Nitrogen. 2. Again, kung ang sagot mo dito 1, yung sinasabi ko sa iyo, ibabalik kita sa daycare. Because I still remember, when I was in daycare, my teacher taught me on how to multiply. O, ganun talaga ka-advance si sir. 3 times 2, 6. Balance? Yes. Papakahirap pa? No need. Balance na siya. Okay? Another example is we have zinc plus hydrochloric acid. Will give you, oh, ano mangyayari dito? Zinc chloride, no? Plus hydrogen. O sir, bakit yung hydrogen may 2 dyan? Wala naman dito ng hydrogen 2. Because of correct. That is a polyatomic ion. Polyatomic atom. Correct. Ang galing mo dun, ha? Natututo ka na. Okay? Balance? Pangitang-pangita na hindi. Ilang zinc? Isa. Hydrogen? Isa. Chlorine? Isa. Ilang zinc? Isa. Ilang chlorine? Dalawa. Ilang hydrogen? Dalawa. Ilan kayong mahal? Dalawa. ay patay ka. Okay? So, ano yung balance natin dito? Si zinc natin balance. Si hydrogen natin at si chlorine hindi. Gagalawin mo pa ba to? Di na. Sinong gagalawin mo? Itong HCl. Ano idadagdag mo dito? Anong ilalagay mong coefficient? Yes, 2. Bakit 2? 2 times 1, 2. 2 times 1, 2. Balance? Balance. Okay? Another example is magnesium plus hydrochloric acid. Actually, guys, if you will perform this in your laboratory, no, with Miss Rovi, magnesium plus hydrochloric acid will give you a excellent reaction. No, when you drop magnesium ribbon or a magnesium in a hydrochloric acid, it will form a very white color, no, that is attracting to the eyes, no, and marirelease yung ating hydrogen. Therefore, the reaction will be magnesium chloride plus hydrogen. Hydrogen, nauusok siya. No, yung usok na yan, that will be the hydrogen. Okay, balance po ba? Hindi. Okay, how are we going to balance this? So, ilang magnesium? 1. Ilang hydrogen? 1. Ilang chlorine? 1. Sa product, ilang magnesium? 1. Ilang hydrogen? 2. Ilang chlorine? 2. Okay? So, parang kagaya lang din nung another example natin kanina. Dagdag tayo dito ng 2. Naglagay tayo dito ng 2 as our coefficient. No? 2, 2. Balance? Balance. Okay? Another example is we have potassium plus water. Will give you what? Potassium hydroxide plus water. Potassium hydroxide plus hydrogen rather. I'm sorry. So again, ilang potassium? 1. Ilang hydrogen? 2. Ilang oxygen? 1. Okay? Ilang potassium? 1. Ilang hydrogen? 2. This is 1 plus 2 is 3. Ilang oxygen? 1. Okay? Balance tayo? Hindi. Hindi balance ang ating hydrogen. So, anong una mong gagawin? No, pag nagdagdag tayo dito ng 2, okay? Pag nagdagdag po tayo dito ng 2, our hydrogen will become, I will choose another color of pen. I will use my favorite color. Okay? So, kapag po nagdagdag tayo dito ng 2 sa ating water, so, this will be 2. Ang favorite color ni Sir ay green. Yan. This will becomes 4. This will becomes 2. O sir, paano naging 4 yan? 2 times 2, 4, di ba? 2 times 1, 2. Okay, balance? Hindi. No? Dagdag tayo dito ng 2. 2 ang ating potassium. Ang ating oxygen ay 2. 2 times 1, 2 plus 2 of here, 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay, and then 2 here. That's it. Okay, so we have the balance equation. Now, sir, can we simplify it? If you're going to simplify it and you're going to divide it to 2, you're going back to the original equation, no? And the original equation is not balanced. That's why you cannot simplify it anymore. Okay? So again, kapag po sinabi nating single replacement, take note that a reaction in which one element replaces a similar element in a compound. A reaction in which an element replaces, no, a similar element in a given or in a compound. Next type of reaction is we have double replacement reaction. Some call it, or some references referred it as double displacement, single displacement. So anything will do, but for the purpose of this discussion, we're going to use double replacement or single replacement. Okay? So, in single replacement, no, ang sabi natin sa single replacement, one element replaces another similar element. In this double displacement, ano po yung sabi sa double displacement? In double displacement, this is a reaction. Okay? This is a reaction. Every time that I'm going to write Rxn, it means, okay, this is a reaction in which, okay, in which positive, no, and negative ions. So, ibig sabihin, yung po palang mga pinag-uusapan natin nung makaraan ay talagang importante po, no? Kasi nauulit mo siya ngayon. Yes. No? Double displacement or double replacement reaction is a reaction in which positive and negative ions of two ionic compounds exchange spaces, okay, to form a new compound. So what is our formula? AB plus, hindi CBN, no? AB plus CD will give you, no, A and D, C and B. We have AD plus CB. Again, in double displacement or double replacement reaction in which a positively charged and negatively charged ions of two ionic compounds exchange spaces to form a new compound. In other words, they change their partner. Okay? They have their change in partner, or the one that they have attraction. Okay? So let's have an example. Sodium hydroxide plus HCl. And this is actually, guys, a reaction of what we call acid-base reaction. Now, this is base and this is acid. Now, we were going to discuss that after our prelims. Okay. Sodium hydroxide. So, this is our A. I will use another pen so that you will see. This is our A. This is our B. This is our C and D. Sabi natin, we have AD plus, okay, sabi natin AD plus CB. Okay, ano yung A? Sodium. Ano yung D? Chlorine. Ano yung C? Hydrogen. Ano yung B? OH. E di H2O. Okay? So, sodium hydroxide plus our HCl will give us sodium chloride and water. Balance. Let's see. Ilang sodium? Okay. Ilang sodium? 1. Ilang oxygen? 1. Ilang hydrogen? 2. Ang nagsabi ng 1 ay mabubulag na 1 here and 1 here. Ilang chlorine? 1. Okay? Ilang sodium? 1. Ilang oxygen? 1. Ilang hydrogen? 2. Ilang chlorine? 1. Balance? Balance. Bakit erase an A? Oh, ayan. Balance po ba? Yes. Next, another example. Okay? Sodium sulfite plus phosphoric acid. So, ano po yung ating sagot? Again, we have here A, B, C, D. So, we have sodium and phosphate, hydrogen and sulfate. So, we have, ano, Na, okay, 3PO4 plus H2SO4. Third, I want you to give me the reason why it becomes Na3PO4 and H2SO4. Oh, bakit? Sodium 1, phosphate, crisscross, Na3PO4. Tama. Okay? Hydrogen, sulfate, crisscross, H2SO4. Tama. Tama. Okay? Natandaan? Sana natandaan. Okay, sana sa panahong ito at sa oras na ito, nakikinig ka pa din sa akin at natututo ka pa din sa ating ginagawa. Kahit na alam kong gusto mo nang ipikit ang iyong mga mata. Okay? So, let's see if we have a balanced equation. How many sodium? 2. Sulfur? 1. Oxygen? 7. 3. 4. Okay? We have phosphorus, we have 1. Okay? Na, we have 3. S, 1. O, PO4, SO4. No. This is 3 lang pala to. I'm sorry. Okay, oxygen is 7. Okay, so do we have a balanced equation? No. No? Hindi po balance ang ating equation. Bakit? Because sodium in the reactant is 2 and sodium in the product is 3. So how are we going to do on that? So we are going to balance. Sino po ang una nating gagalawin? Okay? What number will be added in the coefficient, or what number will be added as coefficient in sodium sulfate to make the equation balance? So we add here 3. 3 times 2, 6. Okay? 3 times 1, 3. So 3 times 3, 9 plus 4. Nako, patay. 9 plus 4. Nako, nagdot-dot ba yan sa calculator? Hindi pa niyan alam na 9 plus 4 ay 12. Tama ba? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 pala. Naku, patay. Si Sir. Si Sir pala ang mali. No? 8 plus 4 pala ang 12. 13. Okay? Tapos, puros mo ilan? 1. Kasi hindi naman siya nabago. No? Ganun pa din. So, kung pinalitan dito yung sodium, dapat mag-add ka din dito. So, ano yung ilalagay mo dito para mag-balance siya? Lagay mo 2. 2 times 3, 6. Ang iyong phosphorus, naging 2. Ang oxygen mo, 8 plus 3, 11. No? Sulfur mo the same. So, anong sunod mong gagalawin? Ano yung pinakamadali? Ay, may hydrogen pa pala tayo, hindi napapansin. Ang sakit naman nung hindi napapansin. Okay? So, the same. Magdagdagan dito ng 3. Okay? 3 times 2. This will becomes 6. 3 times 1 becomes 3. 3 times 3, 9. 2 times 4, 8. 8 plus 9, 17. So, nadagdag mo dito, 2. 2 times 3, 6. 2 times 2, 2. Okay? 2 times 4, 8. 3 times 3, 9. 9 plus 8, kinalkyo mo pa, ginawa mo na kanina, 17. Balance equation? Yes. So, the balance equation is this one. Okay? Another example that we have is uh, calcium hydroxide plus HC. Paano kaya ang calcium hydroxide plus HCl? Okay, so we have a calcium H2 plus HCl, no, will give us calcium chloride plus water. Ilan pong calcium ang mayroon tayo? 1. Okay? Ilan pong oxygen ang mayroon tayo? 2. Ayan ka na naman sa 1. Pag sinabi mong 1 yan, talagang sinasabi ko sa iyo, nako. Okay? Next, ilan pong hydrogen? 3. Sir, bakit po naging 3? 2 times 1, 2 plus 1, 3. Chlorine, 1. Calcium, 1. Chlorine, 2. Hydrogen, 2. Oxygen, 1. Okay? So, calcium balance. Chlorine, hindi. Hydrogen, hindi. Oxygen, hindi. Gagalawin mo pa ba to? Hindi na. Kasi balance na yung calcium mo. Okay? So, sino yung una mong gagalawin? Si HCl. Okay? Sa hydrogen mo, doon sa isa, 2. Doon sa isa, 3. Sa chlorine mo, sa reactant, 1. Sa product, 2. So, dapat ito ay 2 din. Okay? So, magiging 2 ang iyong chlorine. Balance ang chlorine? Balance. Ang hydrogen? Hindi. 2 times 2. 2 times 1 pala. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay? Ang oxygen mo ba nabago? Hindi. Kasi ganun pa din. Wala kang binago dito. Dito ka nag-add. Dito, no, para mag-balance, maglagay ka ng, 2. 2 times 2 ng hydrogen, 4. Ng oxygen, 2 times 1. Oh, bakit tinaparamdam mo? 2. Ay, balance? Yes. Balance na? Yes. Balance na? Yes. Calcium, 1, 1. Balance. Oxygen, 2, 2. Balance. Hydrogen, 4, 4. Balance. Chlorine, 2, 2. Balance. Nakuha na? Sana ang sagot mo, yes. Naintindihan na? Sana ang sagot mo, yes. Okay? Next example. I guess you are wondering what will be the answer in this problem. Carbon dioxide, no? Carbon dioxide plus water. What will be the product in this reaction? Carbon dioxide and water. Actually, guys, this is what we call photosynthesis. If you still remember your biology. Now, photosynthesis, carbon dioxide and water, combination of carbon dioxide and water in photosynthesis is what? Your glucose, C6, H12, CO6, plus oxygen. Okay, that's the product of our photosynthesis, right? Sugar, glucose, and oxygen. Balance. Let's see. Carbon, 1. Hydrogen, 2. Oxygen, 3. Carbon, 6. Okay? Hydrogen, 12. Oxygen, 6 plus 2, 8. Balance? Hindi. Malaking problema. Hindi balance. Paano sasagutan? Paano isosolve? Anong unang ibabalance? Correct. Carbon. 6 ang iyong carbon sa product. Sa product. Dapat 6 din to. So, ilagay mo dito, 6. 6 times 1, 6. 6 times 2, 12. Plus 1, 13. Balance? Ang carbon, oo. Ang hydrogen at oxygen hindi. So, dito, ang gagalawin mo. Sir, bakit po hindi dito? Kasi mas malaki na to kaysa dito. Ito yung hinahabol mo, yung nasa reactant. Ilan ang carbon, ilan ang hydrogen mo sa product? Well, ilan dito? 2. So, ano dapat? 6 din. Tama? 6 times 2, 12. Balance ang carbon, balance ang hydrogen. 6 times 1, 6. Okay? 6 times 2, 12. 12 plus 6, 18. Anong hindi balance? Si oxygen. Kapag ginalaw natin to, lahat magagalaw din ng carbon, magagalaw din ng hydrogen, ibig sabihin gagalawin natin to. So alin ang gagalawin natin? Yung oxygen. Ilan yung oxygen dito? 8. No? 6 plus 2 is 8. Kailangan mo maging balance sila. So what number will you add as coefficient? 6. Bakit po? 6 times 2, 12 plus 6. Obo ay 18. Balance, balance. And that is the balance equation of the product of our photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide plus water will give you sugar, glucose, and oxygen. Meaning to say, in photosynthesis, we need to have 6 moles of carbon dioxide and 6 moles of water to give you 1 mole of glucose and 6 moles of oxygen. Okay, so that is our double displacement reaction or double replacement reaction. Now the other one is we have the combustion reaction. Now take note guys, no, like what I have said in our previous discussions, sabi natin combustion is a reaction, no, that requires oxygen. That is simply burning in the presence of oxygen, no, burning in the air. Now take note guys that this reaction, no, reacts with oxygen, releasing energy in a form of light and heat. And take note, no, take note, it must contain oxygen in the reactant, and the product will always be carbon dioxide and water, regardless of what is being burned. Okay? Regardless of what is being burned in combustion, there will always be a presence of oxygen, and the product will always be carbon dioxide and water. No? Carbon dioxide and water. So for example, we have here propane plus oxygen, that definitely we have carbon and water. Ethanol, no, burn in the presence of oxygen, we have carbon dioxide and water. Butane, in the presence of oxygen, will give you carbon dioxide and water. Okay, so that is combustion. No? Now, how about redox reaction, or what we call uh, reduction oxidation reaction? Now, I want you to take note of these concepts. Number one, we have what we call oxidation, and we have what we call reduction. Okay? So, dito muna tayo. First concept of redox reaction. Sir, sabi mo, first concept. Yes. So, the first concept, no, of redox reaction, kapag daw sinabi nating oxidation, ay makinig ka ng husay, no? Kapag po sinabi nating oxidation, that means there is loss of electrons. Losing of electrons. Kapag po sinabi nating reduction, no? Kapag po sinabi nating reduction, that is gain of electrons. I repeat, in oxidation, reduction, or redox reaction, kapag po sinabi nating oxidation, you lose electrons. No? Oxidation, lose electrons. Gain of electrons is reduction. Sana yung mnemonic natin dito? No? Bibigyan na naman kayo ni Sir ng mnemonic. Kapag po sinabi nating oxidation, the mnemonics will be LEO. Lose electrons, oxidation. Lose electrons, oxidation. Lose electrons, oxidation. Lose electrons, oxidation. Okay? How about gain of electrons? Gain of electrons, reduction. Gain of electrons, reduction. Gain of electrons, reduction. Loss of electrons, oxidation. Loss of electrons, oxidation. Okay? And take note that redox reaction is any reaction in which electrons are being transferred from one species to another. Example, we have zinc plus copper sulfate. Actually, guys, if you will perform this in your experiment or in your laboratory, no, zinc sheet, no, you will scratch zinc sheets. Bakit mo kailangang scratch ang zinc sheets? Para ma-excite ang electrons. Okay? You will drop the zinc sheet in a copper sulfate solution. A copper sulfate is a blue solution. You're going to drop the zinc sulfate in a copper sulfate solution, and you will observe that there will be a formation of kalawang. And that kalawang is the copper deposits on the zinc metal. Some of the zinc metal will dissolve, no? Part of it will be dissolved, and part of it is where the copper deposits will attach. And if you will observe, no, in your lab, kapag po ginawa nyo with viscosity, and if you will observe, the blue color of your copper starts to gradually disappear. Why? The explanation on that is the loss and gain of electrons. Which one lose? Which one gains? We will see. Take note, guys, that zinc, no, will lose electrons to copper. Actually, this is an example of what? Single replacement reaction. No? This is an example of single replacement reaction wherein we have zinc sulfate plus copper. Right? That is the reaction. No? Zinc will lose electrons to copper so that copper will be stand alone. Hindi na kailangan ng another electrons from the sulfate ion because the two electrons will be coming from zinc. Okay? And okay, so zinc will lose electrons to copper. Zinc will lose electrons to copper so that our zinc will be like this. No. Wait, let me write it again. Zinc will lose electrons, so that will be zinc. Okay. Therefore, zinc is oxidized. So, bakit oxidized? Loss of electrons, oxidized. Copper gains electrons. So, copper plus 2 electrons will become what? This will becomes copper, and that is reduced. Bakit reduced? Gain of electrons reduced. Gain of electrons reduced. Okay? Gain of electrons Reduce. Nag-gain ba ng electron si copper? Yes. Saan nanggaling yung 2 electrons ni copper kay zinc? Si zinc ba nag-lose ng electrons? Yes. Okay? Ngayon, yung dalawang lose na electrons ni zinc, saan siya mag-attach? Sa copper sulfate para po meron siyang dalawang electrons na makuha. Okay? So please take note of this. Now, if you are going to put it in this way, we can say that, no, sabi natin, zinc plus copper. So si zinc nag-lose ng electrons. Si copper nag-gain ng electrons. So we can say that zinc is our oxidized. Copper is our reduced. Sure, bakit nga si zinc ang oxidized? Siya yung nag-lose ng electrons. Right? Bakit nga si copper ang reduced? Siya yung nag-gain ng electrons. Therefore, makinig kang mahusay kasi medyo nakakalito to. Therefore, we can say that zinc is our reducing agent. And our copper is our oxidizing agent. Taka lang sir, taka lang. Ulitin mo. Si zinc nag-lose ng electrons. Ang tawag sa kanya, oxidized. Leo. Lose electrons, oxidation. Si copper, nag-gain ng electrons. Anong tawag sa kanya? Reduced. Reduction. Gain of electrons, reduction. Tapos sir, ang sabi mo, si copper, si oxidizing agent. Tapos si zinc, si reducing agent. Hindi po ba baliktad? Hindi. Okay, tama po ba? Tama. Ano po ba ang ibig sabihin kapag sinabi nating oxidizing agent? Kapag po sinabi nating oxidizing agent, this is a reactant that removes electrons from the other reactant. Tandaan mo, itong zinc na to, nag-lose siya ng electrons. At bakit siya nag-lose ng electrons? Because of this oxidizing agent. Nilose ni zinc para makuha ni copper. Siya yung nag-gain. Siya yung nagpa-reduce dito. Siya yung nag-oxidize rather. Siya yung nag-oxidize dito so that this reduced element, so that this element will be reduced. So that this element will gain electron. In other words, when we said oxidizing agent, that is the electron acceptor. Okay? When we said oxidizing agent, that is the reactant that removes electron from the other species. Or in other words, in a simple and precise way, we can say that copper is, or that we can say that oxidizing agent is the one that accepts electrons. Now, how about reducing agent? When we said reducing agent, that is the reactant that lose electrons to an electron acceptor. Nag-lose ba ng electron ang ating zinc? Yes. Kaya siya oxidized. Siya yung reducing. Siya yung nabawasan. I hope you can follow. No? When you gain electrons, you are being oxidized. And you are called to be the reducing agent because you lose electrons. You lose electrons for an electron acceptor. When you gain an electrons, you are reduced. And we have what we call oxidation or oxidizing agent, wherein a reactant that removes electrons to other reactant. Thus we said, loss of electrons oxidized. Gain of electrons reduced. In other words, oxidized agent or oxidized, hindi oxidizing, oxidized agent is known to be your reducing agent. And when we said you gain an electrons, you gain an electrons, you are the oxidizing agent that removes electrons from the other species, and you are referred as the electron acceptor. Okay? You are referred as the electron acceptor. Well, I hope it's clear. Okay? That is the first concept. Diyos ko siya, may second concept pa ba? Yes. Sa tandaan mo, ang sabi natin, kapag daw ikaw ay nag-lose ng electrons, ikaw ay oxidize. Kapag ikaw ay nag-gain ng electrons, ikaw ay reduce. Now, what is the other definition of oxidation? What is the other definition of reduction? Kapag daw oxidation, the other definition of oxidation, you gain oxygen, you lose hydrogen. Kapag daw reduction, you gain hydrogen, you lose oxygen. Okay? So, ano yung mnemonics natin dito? Sir, meron pa bang mnemonics? Sige, lalagyan natin ng mnemonics. And what will be the mnemonics? Oxygog. Hindi po pagkain. Ang sabi ko, oxygol. Okay? Oxygol. Reduction, relog. Relog. Okay? So, medyo capitalize din natin to. Oxygol. May H pala sa dulo, no? Jejemon. Oxygol. Relog. And oxygol. Oxidation, gain of oxygen, loss of hydrogen. Oxidation, gain of oxygen, loss of hydrogen. Reduction, loss of oxygen, gain of hydrogen. Reduction, loss of oxygen rather, loss of oxygen, gain hydrogen. Example, we have here the combustion of methane, then said combustion, definitely oxygen, carbon dioxide, and water is our product, and heat as the byproduct for energy. Okay. Sino ngayon dito ang oxidized? Sino ngayon dito ang reduced? Ngayon, si methane gains oxygen, lose what? hydrogen. Alangan namang ito ang mag-lose ng oxygen, eh wala naman siyang oxygen. E di siya ang mag-gain ng oxygen at siya ang mag-lulose ng hydrogen to form carbon dioxide. Therefore, this methane is our oxidized. If methane is our oxidized, this is our what? Reducing agent. Oxygen, alangan namang ito ang mag-lose ng hydrogen, eh wala siyang hydrogen. E di siya ang mag-lulose ng oxygen, siya yung mag-gain ng hydrogen para maging water. So, lose, anong nilose niya? Oxygen. Ano yung gain niya? Hydrogen. Okay? So, si oxygen is our reduced. And this is our oxidizing agent. Okay, I will not go deeper in the explanation of redox reaction because it will be discussed thoroughly in their analytical chemistry. Okay, so I'll just give you an overview or overview, yeah, of what is redox reaction. Again, gain of electrons, reduction, loss of electrons, oxidation, gain of oxygen, loss of hydrogen, oxidation, gain of hydrogen, loss of oxygen, reduction. Okay? I hope you can follow. Right? Next is we have the reactions between ions. Okay, take note guys that ionic compounds also called as salts. And when we said ionic compounds, no, ionic compounds that are being dissolved in water will dissociate or decompose its ions into a cations and anions. Uulitin ko, ionic compounds dissolved in water will dissociate into ions. We have the cations and anions. Let's say, for example, we have here sodium chloride. Okay, sodium chloride, when dissolved in water, no, will give you sodium ion and chlorine or chloride. So when you add when you add sodium chloride in water, ganun yung nangyayari. Na-split. Now, this is an example of dissociation reaction na or decomposition reaction na-split into molecule, na-split into ions, sodium ion and chloride. Now, the question is, what happens when we mix two aqueous solutions? What happens when we mix aqueous solutions of two different ionic compounds? Eh, ano yung mangyayari dyan? Please take note of this. What will happen when we mix aqueous solutions of two different ionic compounds? So this is what will happen. Number one, no, uh, ano yan? Two ions, if two ions combine to form water insoluble, then precipitate forms. Number two, if all ions are soluble, then no chemical change is observed. Okay? Again, if all ions are soluble, then no chemical change is observed. If two ions combine to form a water-insoluble, bibigyan ng emphasis na sir ang insoluble, water-insoluble compound, then a precipitate, no? A precipitate will forms. This precipitate will indicate that these ions are water insoluble. Again, yung pong ionic compound natin na na-dissolve sa water will give us sodium ions plus chlorine ion or chloride. Now take note guys, why is it we have here aqueous, aqueous? Now take note guys, if we use water as our solvent, then the solution will be in aqueous form. Okay, I repeat, if we use water as solvent, then it will be an aqueous solution. Now, example, let's assume that we dissolve sodium chloride in water to give us sodium ion and chloride, no, aqueous solutions. We have silver nitrate dissolved in water, we have silver ion and nitrate ions. So when we mix the two, what will happen? So I will show you a video. That is actually, guys, an example of double displacement, right? So we have here a silver chloride, a silver nitrate solution, ADNO, by AgNO3. This is our silver nitrate solution. When we add sodium chloride solution, there will be a precipitation. Again, it means that this product is water insoluble. Okay? That product is what we call water insoluble. Okay, so let's put it in this way. I will share you the other one. Okay. Let's put it in this way. We said that when we combine silver nitrate and aqueous solution of silver nitrate and sodium chloride, so we have there what? Ano yung meron tayo doon? Silver plus nitrate plus what? Sodium plus chlorine will give you what? This is actually, guys, silver nitrate plus sodium chloride will give us silver chloride plus sodium nitrate, right? So, going back to this one, ang sabi natin, no, ang sabi natin, we have silver ions and nitrate ions in silver nitrate solution, and sodium ions and chloride ions or chloride in sodium chloride solution. Take note, ano yung sabi natin sa double displacement? Positively charged and negatively charged ions will have change in their partner. So meaning to say, Silver, a positively charged ion, will have an affinity to a negatively charged. Originally, naka-attach siya or naka-bond siya sa nitrate. Since na-split na sila, then it will have your chlorine. Well, for sodium and nitrate, they will have. So we have silver chloride, this is a solid product, plus sodium nitrate, this is a liquid. No? So, ibig sabihin, sodium ions plus nitrate ion. And this forms as a solid, which means no, this solid indicates that this is our precipitate. Which means silver chloride is what? This is an example of your water insoluble. As you can see, in our previous example in the video, no? After the addition of sodium chloride, it forms a precipitate. It forms a white turbidity. And that turbidity, no, will, after settling it down, will become the precipitate. And that is our silver chloride. Okay? Now, ano po yung tawag natin doon? No? That is what we call net ionic equation. Okay? When we said net ionic equation, it is the equation that shows ions form precipitate. Okay? Kapag po sinabi nating net ionic equation, that is an equation that shows no ions, that equation that shows formation of precipitate. Precipitate. So in that case, our net ionic equation will be silver, no, plus chlorine will give you silver chloride. Now, ano yung ngayon, this is our net ionic equation. Ngayon, ano yung tawag mo kay sodium at saka kay nitrate? This is what we call spectator ions. And when we said spectator ions, these are the ions that not participate in the reaction. These are the ions that are soluble. These are the ions that do not form a precipitate. In other words, do not participate in the reaction. They form, do not form, did not form rather, they did not form a precipitate. Okay? So that is what we call spectator ions. Okay? So take note of this. The reactions between ions. Two ions form a compound that is insoluble in water. Kapag insoluble in water, there will be a precipitate. Two ions react to form a gas that escapes from the reaction, then that is in form of bubbles. Okay? Reaction between an ions, it can be also an acid neutralizes a base. We will discuss that after prelims. And one of the ions can oxidize the another. That is our oxidation reduction reaction. Okay? Now I want you to take note these general rules about the solubility or the precipitation, no? All compounds containing lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, and ammonium are all soluble. All nitrates and acetates are all soluble. All compounds or all common chlorides, bromides, iodides, and sulfates are soluble except for silver chloride, lead chloride, barium sulfate, and lead sulfate. And lastly, most carbonates, phosphates, sulfides, and hydroxides are insoluble, except for lithium hydroxide, sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, and ammonium hydroxide. Again, please take note these general rules. And that will be the end of this first part about chemical bonds, chemical reactions, and stoichiometry. Okay, please watch the next video about stoichiometry.